Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Faith in KC. I'm Taylor Hemness here from KSHB 41. Glad to bring you this episode that is unlike any other episode we've done over the course of this series for the last couple of years, and that's because it's presented in conjunction with a television story that I produced and put on the air just recently. And I hope you'll be able to, if you're interested, watch and listen to both of these. The television story first is part of our 360 series here at KSHB 41, where we take a topic or a question and we try to approach it from as many different angles as possible. Mine is on the future of houses of worship, the physical buildings post-COVID. What are those going to look like and sound like and feel like now that we've all spent the last couple of years, people of faith, I should say, doing some version of church at home, maybe even for a long time. And that's what that conversation is like. That story is available right now on KSHB 41. I'll post the link to it in the comments of this. In conjunction with that, one part of the conversation that I was not able to put in the actual story is the academic standpoint. And so I reached out to the University of Kansas and got a chance to talk to several members and co-workers, I guess, and collaborators for a project there with the Religious Studies Department at KU called the Religion in Kansas Project and the Faith in the Free State podcast. Both of those are what they have produced there as part of this project. And in this conversation, this Faith in KC episode, we're going to talk about that. First, what are they doing? It's part of the Department of Religious Studies at the University of Kansas, the Religion in Kansas Project, where they're trying to have all kinds of research available to you on that topic. Specifically and recently, they got a grant from Humanities Kansas for the Faith in the Free State podcast, multiple episodes where they have explored the faith and activism of African American churches in Northeast Kansas. So some really great academic work going on about what churches are, what they've been, what they're doing. And that's the conversation I wanted to add to the television story I've already produced. So in this conversation, in this episode today, you're going to hear from Dr. Michael Zagrai. He's a faculty member at the University of Kansas in the Religious Studies Department. Dr. Dorothy Pennington, who's a humanities consultant for the Faith in the Free State podcast. She's also a professor. Darby Bro Vickers, who is a project manager who got her Master of Arts in Religious Studies from KU. And then two interns were involved in the work that they're doing, Grace Aubrey and Emily Council. Grace is actually in this episode today. You're going to hear from and see her in this. Emily was not able to take part in our recording. We hated to miss out on Emily Council, but she's done some great work in this as well. So our thanks to her. Again, I hope you enjoy this. I hope you watch it alongside the television story to talk about this topic. We can't answer all the questions, but we try to approach it from as many different ways as we can. You can reach out to me as always, taylor.hemness@kshb.com for email. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm pretty easy to find if you have questions. Please leave your comments here if you have thoughts about that, and enjoy this newest episode of Faith in KC. Once again, thank you so much for joining us for this newest episode of Faith in KC here from KSHB 41, and a pretty cool episode of Faith in KC we're able to do today because for the first time in 2 years of doing Faith in KC episodes, this is to go alongside a television story that was produced that we put on the air starting today, actually, as I record this. One of our 360 projects where we take a question and try and approach it from many different angles. And the question we approached with this particular story was, what is the future of physical houses of worship post-COVID? What does that situation look like now that people have learned how capable they are of worshiping from home, what that feels like, if they have interest in it? You can watch that story now on kshb.com, and I'll put a link to it in the comments here on Facebook. And if you're listening to our podcast version of this, you can go now, like I said, and look for that story on kshb.com under the 360 heading on our website. So this podcast and this Faith in KC episode today is a part of that story that I did not get to approach when I was telling it from a television standpoint. And that's the academic side. And I reached out to the University of Kansas to help me with that. And I want to introduce, because we've got multiple guests. We don't normally have multiple guests on a Faith in KC podcast, but I thought it was a really great opportunity to do that this time. So you're going to hear voices, 4 different voices that I'm going to be talking to during this Faith in KC podcast. And I'm going to introduce them to you now. Dr. Michael Zagrai is the principal investigator for the Religion in Kansas Project and Faith in the Free State podcast. He's Associate Professor of Religious Studies at KU. So Dr. Zagrai, we're glad to have you. Dr. Dorothy Pennington is a humanities consultant for the Faith in Free State podcast, Professor of Communication and African American Studies. Dr. Pennington wrote The Seminal History of African American Churches in Lawrence in the 1980s This research was a big part of the Faith and Free State podcast, which we're going to talk about right now if you're not familiar with that. She's also a church musician, and we're going to talk about church music being a big part of the in-person experience as well. Darby Bro-Vickers is a project manager for this Religion in Kansas project. She got a Master's of Arts in Religious Studies from KU, and now she works with the department. And Grace Aubrey, who you'll also hear, is a podcast intern for the Faith and Free State. She just completed her Bachelor of Arts, major in Religious Studies this year at KU, and is now a graduate student there in the Museum Studies program. So I'm so thankful that all four of you were able to join me today. Thank you for being with me. I've talked a lot. Now let's let you talk a little bit. Dr. Zagrai, tell me what the Religion in Kansas project is. Let's start with that umbrella. What is the Religion in Kansas project that you've just completed or are still working on?
Well, thank you. We're glad to be here and to share the research that we've done with you and your audience. The Religion in Kansas project is an ongoing endeavor of the Department of Religious Studies at the University of Kansas. It's an open access digital archive that documents religious experience and practice across Kansas. We've received several grants and created digital exhibits on Kansas religious history, the roots of Pentecostalism in Kansas, and paganism in Kansas, for example, in the past. Most recently, we received a grant from Humanities Kansas for our Faith in the Free State podcast, which we'll be discussing today, which explores the faith and activism of African American churches in Northeast Kansas. We interviewed several local pastors about their history and ministry, including how their congregations reacted to COVID-19, how their congregations were involved in social justice activism, and what challenges and opportunities their congregations will encounter going forward. I must say, too, this podcast received additional support from the department's nonprofit trust, the Friends of the Department of Religious Studies, and we're grateful to both Humanities Kansas and the Friends for their ongoing support. So one of the goals of the Religion in Kansas project is to give undergraduate and graduate students practical experience in conducting oral documentary projects. And so we had two student interns who were hired by the Religious Studies Department for the project. Guided by project manager Darby Bro-Vickers, humanities consultant Dr. Dorothy Pennington, and myself, the students researched the topic, sought interview participants, led the interviews, and edited the recorded material. Finally, they served as hosts of the podcast. Additional ongoing goals of the project are to illustrate that the humanities and the Department of Religious Studies in particular, along with its partners across the university, are actively involved in grant and research activity that is of interest to the community at large.
So, Dr. Zagrai, how much of the project's birth, its inception, had to do with the pandemic? Because obviously the pandemic was a almost fork in the road for, you name it, every kind of topic, religion being a big one of it. And that's one of the stories that's part of the story that I did for television. But was this idea kind of already in the works pre-pandemic, or once the pandemic impacted churches in such a big way, was this an opportunity to do some of this research involved in this project?
Right. We had started the project and received a grant from Humanities Kansas prior to the pandemic. And then once the pandemic hit, the work on the project had to stop, obviously. And so then we pivoted. And a previous employee of the Religious Studies Department, Patricia Baldino-Cecil, was the grant writer and co-principal investigator with me on the project. And then when the pandemic hit, we shifted and wrote a different grant proposal, wrote basically an edited proposal, which they accepted, which focused on both social justice activism and the COVID pandemic situation and responses to it.
Grace, I want to bring you in again. I know we threw a lot of names at you. Grace is one of the interns here that worked on the Faith and Free State podcast and part of the Religion in Kansas project. Grace, you have more you're going to tell me in a little bit, but I want to ask you just here while we're talking about it. I understand you and another intern did a lot of these interviews. What was the tenor and the feel of these interviews? I mean, as you approached some of these pastors and reached out and said, we'd like to talk to you about this kind of thing, what was the response like whenever you started the process of interviewing these people?
Well, when we first reached out to many of the churches, the response seemed very good. A lot of pastors were really interested in what we were doing, and they were really happy to help. And then when the actual process of interviews started, the pastors' responses were just unbelievably good. They answered our questions in full. They gave us more information than we needed, and unfortunately, we did have to cut some information, but just to make the time limit. But overall, the pastors and the community seemed to be really responsive to what we were doing.
I want to bring in Darby here. Again, Darby Bro-Vickers is the project manager. She's got her Master of Arts in Religious Studies from KU, now works with the department. So we mentioned earlier, Dr. Zagrai mentioned some of the goals of this and to put this opportunity in front of some of the students there that are part of the religious studies. Darby, expand on that a little bit about what the goals are for a project like this, because it seems very far reaching. What are you trying to accomplish with something like this?
Yeah, so our goals are kind of internal and external. For our own, as Dr. Zagrai said, we really want to give our students research opportunities that they can, be mentored in, how do we look for these sources? How do we reach out? How do we do interviews? How do we compile the research? So that, we've had graduate students in the past, we've had undergraduate students, to just give them experience that they can use moving forward. And then our, kind of outward facing goal is, also just to explain these things are still relevant, to have a resource that other people doing research on religion in Kansas can come and see these interviews that we've done, see the, we've got, digitized ephemera. So, physical objects that we've got scanned, and we've got images on our project so that those are available too for the public, whether it's research at another institution or organization, or just anyone who wants to learn more about religious experience and history in Kansas, that we have this resource available that anyone can access it.
So Darby, I'll stick with you here on you've all done such a great job of kind of laying out what this was. Let's talk about the research itself, because as I mentioned, the point of my story that I did for KSHB 41 for television purposes is what's the future of these physical houses of worship post-COVID? Now that people of faith over the last 2 years have spent some or a lot of time getting used to churching from home, not churching in a congregational setting like they always have, what's the future? And some of the research here seemed to indicate a lot of what I was hearing when I would go and interview people for my story, leaders and faith leaders, that this is a reminder that churches are not buildings. Churches are people and congregations, but not always necessarily in a we're all together format. Is that the same kind of vibe that you were getting from some of these pastors whenever you spoke to them about what church is and what church should or should not be?
Definitely. That's something that I think we heard over and over from each of the pastors that we interviewed, was this idea that the church is more than the building. And we heard about some really interesting examples of how these churches were involved in community outreach. We heard about just different events, connecting people to resources, seniors that did things like story time, back to school, providing school supplies and things to students. We heard, a lot. For one example, one of the pastors, Pastor Delmar White, he's at New Mount Zion Baptist Church in Topeka, and he said, we are and we hope to be more than just a Sunday morning congregation. So really that even before COVID, they were trying to engage their congregation in, more than just the building on Sunday morning services.
Grace, I want to bring you back into as again, Grace Aubrey is one of the interns that worked on this project and did a lot of the interviews herself. More on that same topic of just what these conversations entailed as far as what they saw church. Did you speak to any of these pastors that indicated to you their not belief system necessarily, but what they knew church to be and could be was different pre and post pandemic? Was that a a determining factor in them changing any outsets, or just realizing something maybe they'd forgotten? Grace, what was that line like for them?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the churches really went back to the roots of what the church was originally, and the fact that it's a community service. So they focused a lot on connecting community members to the church, or connecting church members to the community. They had senior events. They helped with GED prep. They did some paying for the exams for the GED. Of course, food and healthcare was a big factor, especially during 2020, when it was difficult for some of the older members to actually get out, even after restrictions lifted. And as well as some of the families that were impacted by the possibly they had to leave a job. So some of those family members got resources from the church that they probably wouldn't have gotten pre-pandemic, just because it was less of it wasn't really on the forefront of the mind of the pastors. Not to say that they weren't community focused before, but of course the pandemic really brought out the fact that the church is there to serve the community.
And I'm interested in that use of building conversation. One of the people I spoke to in my television story is Adam Hamilton. Adam Hamilton is the pastor of United Methodist Church of the Resurrection here in Kansas City, one of the biggest United Methodist Church congregations in the world, really. And he talked about, this was not in the story, but he told me during our interview that they have roughly, I'm going to get the number wrong, but it's several thousand. I think he said 10,000 activities in their building over the course of a year. Some of those same things that you're just describing that happen may not be church specific, but they're happening in some of these buildings. During your conversations, and Grace, you can answer first, but anybody can tap in after Grace answers, that topic of the actual use of our building coming up besides just church congregation settings, that sounds like it was a prominent part of what they were thinking about, especially post-pandemic, right?
Yeah, so a really interesting pattern that we saw is that a lot of the community was coming into the church building, the physical building, but then also a lot of the members of the church were coming out of the building into the community. So there was almost like this intertwining of community and church, that some churches do that. Even pre-pandemic, they have gone out into the community and they have brought the community in, but we saw it at a level that has never been seen before for many of these churches.
We haven't heard from Dr. Pennington yet. I want to bring in Dr. Pennington again. If you missed or forgot, I was introducing everyone there at the beginning. Dr. Pennington is a humanities consultant for this Faith in the Free State podcast that we're discussing. She's a professor of communication and African American studies and wrote The History of African American Churches in Lawrence in the 1980s. Dr. Pennington, tell me about, just first off, your interest in documenting the history of a church setting in Kansas. Why was that a goal of yours and has been for such a long time?
Yes, I have always been interested in historical research to begin with, and historical methods. But because the African American community and African American churches are basically an oral tradition, at least they were historically, what I discovered, not to my surprise, was that some of the churches had no written histories at all. So in that regard, I went out to search for the histories, and I combined what written histories there were with oral history interviews from people in churches that had no written histories at all. And I'm really glad that I captured those, because some of the people who provided the oral histories were senior citizens at the time, and they have since passed away. So had those oral histories not been captured at the time that they were captured back in the 1980s, we might not have had histories of some of the Black churches in Lawrence, Kansas. And I should point out that my research was limited to just the Black churches in Lawrence, Kansas. And at that time, there were 9 Black churches, and one was in the process of being formed at that time. But basically, I would also add that the Black worship experience has largely been a face-to-face encounter. So if we want to talk about the effects of COVID, they would have been sort of really massive in terms of disrupting that Black in-person, face-to-face worship experience between the preacher and the congregation, and of course between the choir and the congregation. So I want to just intimate the fact that we have to look at this as a traditionally oral experience in terms of how COVID and reverting to mass media could affect that in-person worship experience.
And Dr. Pennington, I want to ask you about that as well, because, and again, I'll refer to the television story that's on now as the kind of the first part of this conversation. In that story, I spoke to a Catholic priest who talked about the sights and sounds and smells of a worship service that you get in person. And specifically, obviously, with Catholicism, the smells, incense burning, that kind of thing is going to be a different thing than a lot of people's churches experience. But that sights and sounds part of worshiping in person. And also in that same story, I talked to a woman here in Kansas City, African-American woman, goes to a predominantly African-American church, who has chosen moving forward to stay home and not be part of that in-person experience. So a lot of these things we're talking about are referenced and approached there in that story. But Dr. Pennington, I want to ask you specifically, just as someone who is a church musician and has spent time in that setting all of your life, being around that kind of worship, what do you take as because I heard from so many people about missing that. I know that when I go to church, the song service is where I connect to God, for lack of a better phrase. What has been your understanding and your touch with church worship services, specifically music, over the course of the last 2 years, and their importance, their feeling, how they should change, just that idea of church music worship? How's that different for you?
Let me go back to something that Grace intimated in her conversation too. One of the pastors that we interviewed indicated that of all of the divisions within the African American church, that the music department has been the most difficult to rebuild, period. And that is a very important statement. And so I will just sort of build upon that comment and then go from there to answer your question. In my current experience, the music department has been probably the last one to rebuild. And I think a part of that has to do with the fact that we're talking about an oral in-person form or medium of communication. So if people are absent from the live worship experience, then it's difficult to build that choir base of interactive face-to-face communication that really thrives and feeds upon itself in an interesting kind of way back into the worship experience. So I would validate that in terms of my own experience. But I think the other thing that's important to talk about too is that because African American worship was traditionally face to face, it's what we call and here's a big term, antiphony, like the call and response nature of Black communication. It's very interactive. And so that interactive component even manifests itself into the choir. When they talk about antiphony in Black music, it's where there is a leader and then perhaps the rest of the singers are responding to the leaders. So we call it call and response, call and response. That in and of itself creates a metronomic rhythm to the Black church experience. And that same metronomic rhythm happens between the Black preacher and the congregation.
You're referencing specifically things like amen,
call and response,
yeah,
call and response,
amen, hallelujah, that kind of thing. You're referencing
right.
Actually how people respond while they're sitting in pews.
That's right. And so a lot of that antiphony was lost in going to technology as one of the dominant forms of communication after COVID, and during COVID as well. And so in that regard, I think that a lot of the vivaciousness of the face-to-face interactive supportive dynamic was really lost. And to be quite honest, I'm not sure that it will ever be recovered in its traditional sense of how that worked out with African-American worship experience. For example, Taylor, you just mentioned that an African-American woman said that it's unlikely that she will ever return to the live worship experience. I think it had a rather significant negative impact on the Black experience. Because African Americans are more orally based than technology based to begin with, I think that's going to feed negatively into the full ability of the Black church worship experience to return in its truest form as in the past.
It's a sad thought to think about, and something I know that a lot of churches are grappling with moving forward. I want to bring in Dr. Zagrai again because Dr. Zagrai, I understand, aren't you a past chair of the KU Religious Studies Department? No longer chair, but you were chair for a little while.
That's true. Yes.
I'm curious because I mentioned earlier I'm a churchgoer. I've gone to church all my life, baptized at age 9, that kind of thing. But this was the most my job as a journalist and church had ever necessarily intersected. I'm curious for you from the academic standpoint, that thought process of what you're describing through this project of, for lack of a better term, analyzing church with an academic mind to approach religion academically. Obviously, that's something you've made a career out of, but not all of us, even people of faith, are used to that type of thought process of mixing academics and analytics with how we worship and what about this way and that kind of thing. Is that something you think maybe moving forward is another byproduct of the pandemic, is people being more analytical about what we're doing in worship and how we worship and what the purpose is of this? And is that something you see changing at all moving forward?
I'm not sure if I see it changing going forward. I think there's always been an interest in the general public in religion and in the religions of others as well as in one's own religion. And in our department and in the academic study, we strive to talk about and analyze all religions of the world equally. In other words, we strive not to put our own value judgments in those determinations. And so it's for want of a better term, it's as if, they're all equal players on the playing field. And so I just hope that people will listen to the podcast and will learn information if they're not familiar with these Black churches and in their communities, and that they'll listen to these accounts and to these voices, and that this serves as an educational opportunity, for people who are interested in the topic. And when you're an academic, sometimes I think you can sort of you can kind of be in that ivory tower and stay there. And so I, for one, am someone who has always, done field research and done interviews as part of my scholarship, and feel that it's really important to demonstrate to students and members of the general public that even if you're not going to make a career out of studying religions, that it's still very useful to people in their daily lives and in terms of just getting along in our communities and working together, and thinking about what we have in common, as well as what may divide us, and working through those kinds of issues. And I think it's one of the goals of our department is to be involved in research that is of interest to members of the general public.
Grace, I want to bring you back in again. Grace is one of the Free State or Faith in the Free State podcast interns that worked on this project as well. Grace, you don't have to say in this, and you're welcome to, but you don't have to say if you're a person of faith here. But I'm curious, as you were working on this project, because I know I've worked on my television story that's part of this for the last couple of months, off and on, and telling people about what I'm working on and trying to explain it. What have those conversations, or what were they like for you as you worked on this particular project and this podcast, and people said, "Hey, what are you working on at school? What are you doing?" and you explained what this conversation was like, what were some of the responses you got from people? I mean, beyond just the, oh, that's cool or that's interesting. What do you remember any responses that stuck out over that time?
Yeah, so I actually grew up very Christian. My mom's family is very involved in the Assemblies of God. My dad is Episcopal, and I went to a Christian school. So I am very intertwined in the Christian faith. And so as I was explaining what I was doing to my family, especially my mom's family, they just kept asking questions about why I was interested when I had no chance of being ever involved in any of these faith practices. And then I just responded that, the project is not necessarily reporting on faith, but it is reporting on a moment in time. We are trying to preserve a moment in time, especially our first interview took place probably about a year ago at this point, when we were even closer to the situation. So we are not necessarily asking these churches, what do you believe? How did the pandemic change your belief system? We are asking, what did your church do in response to the pandemic? So it's not like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, we are not trying to change anyone's faith. We are not trying to even change our own faith. We're not trying to do anything about the belief system. We're trying to figure out what the community of the churches is like now.
No, I'm glad you said that. And normally I I should probably not the best choice of word here, but I preach a little bit about that on this Faith in KC podcast, because over the course, this podcast began in late 2020 as an opportunity to look at how the pandemic was impacting church life, worship in person. And we have used it as a vehicle to also tell people about different faiths that are represented in Kansas City. In different episodes, you can go back and look over these. I've done an episode with Buddhists, and obviously with a couple with Muslim and Jews and Christians and people from multiple different walks of faith. And I've always said the purpose of this is not to convert you. It's not to talk you into anything or out of anything. It's to educate people about what is around them and the faith practices that are being observed around them. Guys, this has been a fantastic conversation, and it's I really hope that I'm definitely going to go and take the time to go and look and see what this research has entailed. I want to listen to your podcast. I've looked at the website, and we're going to look at that more in a second. I'm going to come back to Darby in just a moment to wrap us up, to let people know exactly where they can go. But before we do, Grace, Dr. Pennington, Dr. Zagrai, anything else you'd like to mention as part of this before we let people know where they can go and consume all the work you've done?
I just like to say I'm very thankful that Dr. Pennington gave of her time and expertise, that the project would not have been as successful as it was if not for her involvement. And I just wanted to thank her for that. And also just thank the interns for their work and their dedication on the project, and also Darby's work on the project as well. This was truly a team effort. And, with all the different perspectives and all the challenges we faced, I'm just very proud to be a part of it, and hope people will listen and will get something from what we've done, get something from the information that we've collected, and learn about their, and as everyone said, that the goal of the academic study of religion is not to change anybody's mind or anything of that sort. It's to just talk about the different religions on an equal playing field, and to inform and present the perspectives of those people themselves. So.
Well, again, I can't thank you all enough for taking some time to join me to have this conversation. Darby, back to you as we wrap up. For people who are interested and want to take the time, tell people how they can look and find and listen to and read all this research that you have worked so hard to put together.
Yeah, of course. So our Religion in Kansas Project website is ksreligion.omeka.net. That middle part, Omeka, is spelled Omeka. So that's our on the homepage, we've got our Faith in the Free State podcasts, as well as people can take a look at our other collections that we mentioned kind of at the beginning. So that's, just the repository of research that's been collected over years that will continue to add things to. And so, one of the main goals with this particular project was really to give a microphone to these African American churches and to let them have a voice. So we've, the five of us as, journalists and researchers and, have discussed what they said, but we just really encourage people to go back and listen to the pastors themselves and see what they have to say, because that was a big goal of this was, to pass the microphone to them. So yeah, thank you very much for having us, Taylor. This has been so enjoyable for us.
It's been really, really great having all of you. Thank you for your time and for your effort. And I hope people will go and take time to see what all you've done. I know I will. Thank you.